Hi, everyone. Welcome to our continuing Course in Miracles text, chapter 3, section 6, Judgment and the Authority Problem. Another really good one here today. I feel like this chapter 3 so far is turning out to be by far my favorite chapter in this whole idea of innocence perception. So very excited to be covering this today. So wherever you are, just go ahead and take a moment and take a nice deep breath and get into a relaxed place. And we'll do our opening preparation from Pathways to Light. And I'll read and you just repeat silently to yourself before we jump into 3-6. I dedicate this time to healing my mind and awakening to my true nature. I surrender to the source of love within me and let it guide my way. As I do this mind healing work, I'm willing to be mindful of my thoughts without judgment. I am willing to look at how I view my life circumstances as helpful feedback. I am willing to take responsibility for letting go of limiting thoughts and beliefs. I am willing to let go of judgments about myself and others. I am willing to quiet my mind and ask Holy Spirit to take the lead. I am willing to let go of tension. I soften and imagine the Holy Spirit leading me into peace. My aware self leads me as I now focus on healing my mind. All right, 3-6. Let's see, judgment and the authority problem. All right, so from Course in Miracles Made Easy, Judgment and the Authority Problem, paragraph 1. God has no need for judgment because God is one. Judgment is used by Holy Spirit only to help you sort out truth from illusion. After the last judgment, which is your own final sorting out of truth from illusion, you will have no use for judgment. Judgment is used by the personal mind to perceive fragmentation in place of oneness. When you judge with a personal mind, you make the world your reality. Okay, so beyond perception, there is no judgment. So judgment and perception go hand in hand. You perceive the world around you. We've been talking about knowledge versus perception. Knowledge is complete knowing. It's there's nothing to perceive. It's pure truth, pure fact, pure knowing. It's knowing of everything and all things. Perception is your interpretation of everything that's happening around you. And because you're interpreting everything that's happening around you, you also have this quality of judging, which is, we use judging as negative, usually when you say, you're judging something. But it's really just your process of sorting out good, bad, right, wrong, like it, don't like it, all of those decisions that you're making all day long, because you've got this perception. And so then once you have the perception, you have to think through, what does this mean to me? And that's where judgment comes in. So judgment and perception go hand in hand. But beyond perception, there is no judgment because you're just in pure knowledge. So you don't need to, there's nothing to figure out in pure knowledge. So when we judge others, we actually are judging ourselves. And this is the whole idea of the mirror, the concept of the mirror, when whatever you see in somebody else is something that actually needs to be healed in you. So, I've used this example before. When I was in junior high, I remember realizing this every time me and my best friend went to the movies. whenever we walked out of the movies, we would talk about how gorgeous the actress was. And, I remember specifically walking out of a movie with Keira Knightley. And I'm trying to remember what it would have been when we were that young to have Keira Knightley in it. Must have been one of her very early movies. But we walked out of a movie with Keira Knightley, and I walked down and I said, man, she is so skinny. And my friend said, did you notice what a great nose she has? So my friend was always looking at people's noses because she was self-conscious about her nose. Meanwhile, I don't notice anybody's nose. I don't have any issues one way or the other with my nose. So I don't notice anybody else's nose. It just doesn't even occur to me to look at it. But because I've struggled with weight my entire life, I notice when people are super skinny and they look good because they're so skinny. And she was always skinny, has always been skinny. She never notices people's weight. It's just not something that she really pays attention to. And I noticed there that we notice the thing that we ourselves are most self-conscious about. And that's the whole thing in judgment. If you are judging something as good or as bad, there's something within you that it's linking into. There's something in you that's noticing it, because there's so many things to notice that you just don't notice. I mean, do you notice if somebody has curly hair or straight hair? Do you even think about that? Does that, you meet someone who has curly hair, do you think, wow, they have curly hair? Or do you it's nothing, you don't even notice it. But do you notice the difference between someone who has blonde hair and brown hair? Because we have a history of blonde jokes in our society. So do you have certain thoughts about somebody because of their hair color that, you might not about straight hair versus curly hair? So it's just little things like that. It's really about where we come in and our own belief system that comes in there. So when we don't see other people clearly, when we are judging them, we're having perception. It's also a sign that we don't see ourselves clearly. Again, back in 3.3, we talked about knowledge versus perception. This is very much tied into that. If you don't know yourself, you can't know your brother. The way to know yourself is by knowing your brother, seeing innocence, perception, seeing innocence to the point of you don't even see them as doing anything wrong in your brother is when you'll finally know yourself. And when you finally know yourself, you can finally know God. So it's all interlinked together, these processes. And you say, well, how do I get there? I mean, I'm not trying to judge. I don't want to judge. I get it. I get what I'm supposed to do. How do I get there? And the way you get there is to constantly be asking Holy Spirit to help you see things differently. You notice that you're having a response. You notice that you're crossing into judgment. You notice you've perceived, and you ask for true perception. You ask to be shown differently. And after a while, you ask for true perception so much, you get into a place of, before you even have to go into perception, you get into a place where you go, been there, done that, got the t-shirt, never ends up good. I know that what I think's going on is not actually what's going on. And then you get to a point where you don't even have to say, I know what I think's going on is not actually going on. You just see stuff and you go, and walk away, because you're moving into a place of deeper and deeper knowledge, into more trust, into more knowing that everything's okay. Judge not, and ye be not judged, from the actual text here. I love that. Judge not. We've already discussed the last judgment, but in insufficient detail. We talked about the last judgment at the end of 2:8 was the last judgment. And as a reminder, the last judgment is not this concept of judgment day and good and bad. The last judgment is when all the error is gone from your mind. The split mind is gone, and you just go back into the one mind. That is the last judgment. And that's why we're talking about the words judgment with perception, with the split mind. All of those things are interrelated here. After the last judgment, there will be no more. Judgment is symbolic because beyond perception, there is no judgment. When the Bible says, judge not that ye be not judged, it means that if you judge the reality of others, you will be unable to avoid judging yourself. So exactly what I just talked about. When you're judging somebody else, it shows you where there's a need for healing within yourself. It's a way of actually seeing your own, the own parts of you, your shadow parts that need to be healed. Paragraph 2. You lose peace when you choose to judge with the personal mind, because it makes real to you a world that is not real. For the personal mind to reject oneness, it must perceive many different forms that are unlike each other, and then judge or evaluate them, so it can reject some forms and accept others. It accepts as real what it judges as valuable, and it rejects as unreal what it judges as less valuable. One of the illusions of the personal mind is that what it rejects is not real to it. But would you judge against something you did not believe is real? Why would you waste your time judging something that you don't even think is real? If the personal mind perceives it, it believes it is real. In the end, though, there really are no wrong or right judgments made by the personal mind, because what it judges is not real. Your judging in any form with a personal mind implies that it is up to you to decide what is real. Okay. Any kind of judgment is in the illusion. That is summarize that paragraph. Any judgment at all is in the illusion. That's what that's saying. And it's trying to explain why it's coming to that. So again, judging versus knowing. Judging, you think you know something. Knowledge is you don't even need to think about it. You just know it. You're in a sea of knowingness, and you can't even see not knowing. That's how confident you are in knowing. When we judge, we always reject a part of what we see. So if I have to make a judgment that something is good, and then I see something that's less than good, but I've judged that this thing is good, I have to go into some illusion within myself. I have to go into some form of falsehood within myself, because that has to stay good. So I have to weed these little pieces out. So what the Course is saying here in chapter 2 is, does that make any sense to does that even make sense to you, that you've made a judgment and then you got to support the judgment you've made? And all of that is just in the illusion. And same as you've judged something that's bad. If you think about any of the political situations that we see, regardless of what side you're on, we are in a time right now where you're either on one side or the other side. And if you're on one side, even if they do something good, you have to negate it to some degree, because otherwise you couldn't stay fully on that side. You can't stay on that team. So whenever you're judging anything, you're locking yourself into something and filtering out any information that doesn't match your judgment. And that that whole process in and of itself, the Course is saying, it's such an illusion. It's such a waste of time. It's such a waste of energy. Reality is not ours to select from. So what is true is true. What is real is real. You and I don't create it. It's already created. We're in it right now. We just choose whether or not we want to see it. So we can bury our head back in the sand and not see it. That's our choice. That's free will. But it doesn't change what's true. I looked up the definition of judge because I was curious, we're talking so much about it. And these are some of the words that are synonyms for judge. Distinguish, discern, separate. So A Course in Miracles is basically relating judgment to separation. And so by relating judgment to separation, it's telling you to discern, to separate, to distinguish. And Course in Miracles is all about oneness, is about you don't need to separate, you don't need to distinguish. Everything is from God and within God. We accept it all as it is and ask for the miracle. Judging something does not change it. It remains the same. Therefore, we lose peace. So even though we have deemed something to be good or bad or right or wrong or whatever we've deemed it to be, it doesn't actually change what the thing is. And that whole process just costs us our peace. That's what we're saying here in paragraph 2. Okay, paragraph 3. I think I'm actually going to read from the text because that's what I used for my notes. You have no idea of the tremendous release and deep peace that comes from meeting yourself and your brothers totally without judgment. When you recognize that you are and what your brothers are, you will realize that judging them in any way is without meaning. In fact, their meaning is lost to you precisely because you are judging them. All uncertainty comes from the belief that you are under the coercion of judgment. You do not need judgment to organize your life, and you certainly do not need it to organize yourself. In the presence of knowledge, all judgment is automatically suspended, and this is the process that enables recognition to replace perception. So one of the things I was just talking to a friend of mine about was anytime I tell Lori a story, at the end of the story, she just says, okay. And that's all she says, which lets me know she's heard me. She's heard what I've said, but she hasn't get involved in the stories. She doesn't jump in and, feel the need to give advice, or when she does speak and she gives advice, but her advice is very much like the Course, which is an invitation to see things differently. And she never gets into the specifics of the story. And part of that is because she's trained herself in her practice of this to just not get into the fray. And you think of how often we jump into the fray. I know I talked to you, I'm doing this this binder right now. This is from the Pathways of Light, 909, Remembering to Choose Peace. And I use that to read the opening. I use this to read the opening preparation, but there's a whole section here. I believe it's in chapter 18. I can't wait till we get to chapter 18. And there's a whole section, chapter 15. And it's all about how we are chapter 19. Here we go. There's chapter 15, chapter 16, chapter 19. Chapter 19 about how we are so willing to give up our peace. And one of the things that it says over here is the biggest reason that we don't keep our peace is because we are so willing to give it up. And the minute somebody says something to you, the minute something happens in the world, there's a news story, the minute the doctor says something to you, the minute you see a bill, the minute somebody tells you a story, it's like, okay, here, take my peace. Somebody, is having a bad day and they snap at you and you go, oh, okay, here, you can have my peace. We're so willing to give it away. And in this practice of this binder that I'm doing, which totally relates to everything else we're learning, is, I'm the one who chooses whether I keep or lose my peace. It's my choice. And you may be behaving this way. You may have this opinion. You may say this thing to me. This life event may happen. I may have this medical issue. Whatever may happen. I choose whether or not that's going to cost me my peace. And just really saying that to yourself, like it's your choice whether or not you're going to give up your peace over this. If you really stay in that practice, which I've been doing, you'll see that we have really very little that you really need to give up your peace about. I mean, maybe in a moment you get triggered and you give up your peace, but you really don't need to. I mean, it's just not necessary. It's really not necessary. Even if something's true, even if I got this terrible medical diagnosis, even if that is absolutely true that I've got this terrible medical diagnosis, do I need to lose my peace? No. Even if it's true that I can't afford to pay this bill, even, I have no idea how it's going to happen. I may not be able to pay it. That is the truth. Do I have to lose my peace? No. Even if it's true that this person thinks I'm crap and is never going to speak to me again, do I need to lose my peace? No. If you really ask yourself, even if this event is as bad as it is, as bad as I'm perceiving it, as terrible as I really think it is, do I need to lose my peace? Even if this person is treating me horrifically and horribly and disrespecting me, do I need to lose my peace? Do I need to step out of peace because this is occurring? This event is occurring in my life? No, you don't have to. I'm not saying you won't. I'm just saying asking yourself that question is very powerful. Do I want to give up my peace for this? And most of the times, at least for me, the answer is heck no. I do not want to give up my peace. I would rather just go back into my peace bubble and let you be. And remember, we did that in December, the peace bubble exercise. This whole thing is just peace bubble, peace bubble, peace bubble. Okay, so peace is the ability to see without judgment. And innocence is to be like a child and not even know what's happening. Really, truly to be unaware of what's happening in this reality. You're so busy in your peace state with God that things happen around you and you don't see it. I mean, has this ever happened to you where, I can't remember, this happened recently with Mike, where he's like, did you see blah, blah, blah on the side of the road? And I had the radio on, I was driving, he was in the passenger side, I had the radio on, and I was just in my own little world. And he's like, did you just see that and I was like, no. I mean, literally, I didn't see it. And my body's eyes probably saw it because it was in my view. I think it was even on my side. So my body's eyes probably did physically see something going on, but I was so lost in my own state of joy in that moment, I didn't even notice it. And that's really what we want to get to with the innocence perception. It's just so in that state of peace and so in that state of trust and knowing that everything is working out perfectly with God that we literally don't notice. The example when I was prepping for this is the sound of an AC. If you're sitting next to an AC unit and it's on, and after a while you just don't notice, it's like this background hum noise, and all of a sudden it goes off and you're like, whoa, it got so quiet and so peaceful in here. It's that same kind of concept when you get to this innocence perception. It's like you don't notice it, but when it's gone, you're just like, I just feel so much more lighter and peaceful. And it's so much easier than constantly organizing, adjusting, and figuring out. Is what it says here in the course. Okay, paragraph 4. You are very fearful of everything that you have perceived, but have refused to accept. You believe that because you have refused to accept it, you have lost control over it. This is why you see it in nightmares or in pleasant disguises and what seem to be your happier dreams. Nothing that you have refused to accept can be brought into awareness. It is not dangerous in itself, but you have made it seem dangerous to you. Okay, this really reminded me of Byron Katie. And you all I know have heard me at least talk about it, but if you haven't actually done this process, it is really funky, mind-altering to actually do the work, the process called the work with Byron Katie. And when you watch somebody else, I've watched videos, I've actually gone to see her live, and I've watched people up on stage doing the work with her, and she has really simple questions like, is it true? And these people are really like struggling. They're like, and I'm just like, no, it's not. I mean, so obvious the answer is no, it's not true. Like to a point where I actually am like, are you acting right now? Like what is going on? Well, shows you for judgment. I went up on stage. I had a work situation. This person was really a new leader, very misogynistic, and treated me very poorly. And it was just so obvious he was, it was, everybody around me could see it. It was like, there was no doubt he was wrong. It was just such blatant behavior. Well, I went up on stage and did the work with Byron Katie, and she was asking me questions like, is it true? And I was up there like, I walked off that stage. I don't even know what happened. I turned to the person who I came with and I was like, what just happened out there? And she's like, well, I kind of see his point of view. I don't think this is that big of a deal. And I'm like, yeah. And I walked away thinking it's not that big of a deal, but I was just so confused. I can't even tell you the mental confusion that caused, because doing the work made him innocent. And my mind, as much as I was like, I think he's had a bad childhood. I mean, I made up all these stories, not things I know about him, made up all these stories to justify it, but justifying it, what the Course is saying, is really different from coming to this place of knowing that he is innocent and he is okay. I mean, it is just, and that's the first time I understood what a huge mind warp this is. We're doing these principles. I'm doing these principles with you all. We're practicing these principles and we're trying to put them in play. But a lot of it is, I really think you're wrong, but I know I'm not supposed to think you're wrong. So I'm going to just tell myself I don't think you're wrong, but secretly I kind of still think you're wrong. And when you really do the work and get to, is it true? And can you be absolutely sure it's true? And can you be sure you should not be having this experience? And you go through a process like the work, you really come across on the other side being like, I don't know what to think anymore. I really, truly do not know what to think. What I was so sure of is at the very least questionable now. So that's really what I'm reading when I look at 4 is, in order for us to survive in this world as a human body in our human body form, we have to discern. We have to come up with a judgment, and then we find the evidence that supports the judgment we want. And we talk about this all the time in Manifest, law of attraction, manifesting. We tell ourselves, we create a vision of what we want our lives to be. We tell ourselves a story about it, and then we just look for all the evidence that supports that. And that's how we create cool things in our life. And that's another way of using judgment to get what you want. But in order to see that, we have to weed out any information that doesn't support that. So that's one way of living life. Course in Miracles is saying, why do any of that work whatsoever? Why not just trust everything's perfect right now? How do I know it's perfect? Because it's happening. If it's happening, it's meant to be, and it's for my greatest, highest good. I just know for a fact because I did not create myself. God created me. I'm having the life experiences I'm supposed to have. All I have to do is have these life experiences. They don't mean anything. They're not good experiences. They're not bad experiences. They're just my life experiences. Each one of them teaches me something, helps me heal in some way, gives me a life experience, and I just get to keep my peace throughout the whole thing. It's going to be some ups, going to be some downs, going to be some all arounds, but none of it's really real. So I'm just kind of going to float through this. You know, it's like going through a ride at Disneyland. I love Disneyland. Going through a ride at Disneyland, sometimes I go through the kids' rides, the the little kids' rides, because there's some really good ones in there. And then you get to the point where they show you like the evil witch and stuff, and you've got all these little kids like, and you know that it's scary for them. But you're the adult and you're like, oh, okay, well, this is the evil witch part of the ride, and oh, look, this is the happy ending part of the ride, and you're not taking anything seriously because you just kind of know it's just a ride, and it's going to last about 37 seconds, and then I'm going to be off it, and you know, oh, look at that. Oh, God, they did such a good job with that evil witch. She looks so scary. That's such a good, scary rendition of her. This is, you know, you're just observing, noticing, not taking it. It's not a big deal. You don't get off the ride and say, did you notice how well they did the witch? You didn't even notice it enough to have a thought, a true thought about it. You just saw it and it was, and and then 37 seconds is over and you're off the ride, and now which ride are we going to go on? And you just move on. And I kind of think of it that way. Okay, so, okay, my notes for 4. When we judge something, we think we have put it in a box and it's gone, but really we've just stored it in our mind, and it's going to keep playing out over and over and over again. So we really don't want to be holding on to judgment over here, because it's creating our reality. We think we've judged it and said, oh, I do not like that. Okay. Have you ever said, oh, I'm not going to even look at that. I don't like that. That is not for me. And you think, because you said, I don't like it, I'm not going to look at it, it's not for me, you think, gone. Really what you've done is gone, given it a little home right here. And now your entire experience is going to keep coming from that. So when you have the, I don't like that, I don't want to look at that, that's not for me. Instead, you just say, help me to see this differently. Help me see this, because I don't like it. I don't like it. And I know if I don't like it, I just need to heal it and see it differently. I don't want it to go away, i.e. stored in my mind. I want it to truly go away, which is to be in the state of knowledge, to know that whatever that is has its time, its place, and its purpose, and that it's not for me to understand. I don't need to understand it. I just need to not judge it. And again, I talked about this on one of the calls. Judge the situation, not the person. So you can judge, you know what? I mean, when I see kids suffering, I do not like kids suffering. I don't need to judge the government that's causing it, or the organizations that don't have water, or the countries that don't have water, who's damming up the water so people don't get, I don't need to judge any of that. I just need to say, wow, I really don't like to see kids suffering. I don't like that. So what can I do that can ease suffering of kids, period? I don't need to get into who caused it and who's at fault, and, you know, this should never happen. There's so much, you all. I've been watching, literally have been trying to stay off of Facebook, because there's just so much this should not happen. This cannot happen. So much energy on what should not happen. And there's some bad stuff out there that really should not happen. But the energy of it is so magnetizing. It's so strong. It's magnetizing. And that's what I, caution myself and each of you. Just be cautious with that. If you're looking at anything that's causing you to lose your peace, check in. Do I need to lose my peace over this? And can I really be effective? We're going to get into that in this chapter. Can you really be effective if you lose your peace over it? Are you really creating something better when you're creating from a place of loss of peace? No, you're creating more of it. So, it's just to check in when you're out of sorts in that way, to just say, this is not the moment for me to be creating. This is the moment for me to be asking to see this differently and doing whatever I need to do to get back to peace, to get out of judgment, to get out of right, wrong, good, bad, and get back to peace. And that is our only goal, is peace. And from that place of peace, there's so much you can create, and it's powerful stuff you're creating. So if you judge it, it's locked in your mind. That hit home this time. Reading it this time, I mean, I've always known that. I've heard that before. I shouldn't say I've always known that. I've heard that before. It hit home this time. I do not want the things that I dislike the most, I do not want to be locked in my head with me. So I will work even more so to keep my peace and be willing to see those things differently. 5. When you feel tired, it is because you've judged yourself as capable of being tired. When you laugh at someone, it is because you've judged him as unworthy. When you laugh at yourself, you must laugh at others, if only because you cannot tolerate the idea of being more unworthy than they are. All this makes you feel tired because it is essentially disheartening. You are not really capable of being tired, but you are capable of wearying yourself. The strain of constant judgment is virtually intolerable. It is curious that an ability so debilitating would be so deeply cherished. Yet if you wish to be the author of reality, you will insist on holding on to judgment. If you wish to be the author of reality, you will insist on holding on to judgment. You also regard judgment with fear, believing that it will someday be used against you. This belief can only exist to the extent that you believe in the efficacy of judgment as a weapon of defense for your own authority. Okay, big point, main point out of this. If you want to be in charge of your life, if you want to be the person who's in charge, you will hold on dearly to judgment. If, on the other hand, you realize that actually God is the one who is in charge, God created me. I didn't create myself. God created me. I don't need to judge myself. I can't even judge myself. I didn't create myself. God created me. If instead you hold on to this, then you start to realize that I'm not even in charge of this ride. The ride at Disneyland, I'm not in charge of this ride. I didn't want it to go left. I would have rather it gone right. I'm not the one who's in charge. The ride goes where the ride goes. I'm just on the ride. That is the difference. If you're the one who wants to orchestrate the ride and decide where the ride goes and decide when it goes up and decide when it goes down, that's fine. Then you live in all this judgment and stuff. But guess what? And we've all done there. I know we've all done this. I know we're all exhausted because we've done this. We've orchestrated the perfect ride, and guess what? It doesn't do what we want it to do. Even though we planned it perfectly, we planned every eventuality, the ride still ends up doing whatever the heck the ride wants to do. And instead, we're just exhausted because we spent all this time trying to get it to do a certain thing, thinking that because we planned it and we put all this effort into it and we visualized it that it will do this certain thing. And at the end of all of this, we've just worn ourselves out, because at the end of the day, the ride's already going. It's going on the track it's going. Nothing we do, nothing we say is going to change the track the ride's on. Instead, what we need to do is be at peace with whatever is happening on our ride, to realize we don't have to lose our peace because of it, and that probably the ride that God created, the ride that was created by the pure force energy of love, is probably the ride we want to be on. It's probably 1,000 times better than any ride we could come up with. And so we can say that, and then 10 seconds from now we'll go, yeah, but I just really want it to go this way. And that is what we're battling every second of every day, and it's exhausting us. So can we just let our lives go into flow? Can we just flow and know that there might be some moments of flow that feel really not what you wanted, but that you're in the flow, and that too shall pass, and the ride will, the evil character part of the ride will pass, and you'll be back at the happy ending part of the ride. And you can just notice it without judging it and without losing your peace over it. It's basically what it's saying. When we judge others, we feel the effect in ourselves, and it is tiring. We have to feel less than when we're judging somebody else, because they can't be better than us. We want to be. So if we judge ourselves, then we have to judge somebody else more. It's just a vicious cycle. We want to know all, so we judge. But to know all, we really just have to drop judgment. And this, my friends, is the authority problem. We want God to be in charge and we want to be in flow so that we can have pure peace. But every time we allow God to be in charge and we go into pure flow and something happens that we think, this isn't what I wanted to have happen, we try to take the power back. So we have an authority struggle. We're in a power struggle with God. I wonder who's going to win this one. We are in a power struggle with God. My way or God's way? And that is what's exhausting, because we're fighting with something that is a pure force of love, first of all, and that's much more powerful than we are. We think we'll feel safe by taking complete control, but the only way to get complete control is to completely let go. If you love something, set it free. 6, God offers only mercy. Your words should reflect only mercy, because that is what you have received and that is what you should give. Justice is a temporary expedient or an attempt to teach you the meaning of mercy. It is judgmental only because you are incapable of injustice. Okay, so God only offers us mercy. God, in Islam, we say, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most beneficent, the most merciful. I mean, the most, more than anybody, more than everybody combined, the most. So God's only offering us beneficial, only offering us good, abundance, and only offering us mercy. That's it. That's the definition. God, love. That's the definition, offering us mercy. So that's all we should be offering each other. Every time you see another human being doing something that doesn't work for you, offer them mercy. Be like God. See them the way God sees them. Offer them mercy. That's all we should be. That's the only thing we should be exchanging. Compassion, mercy, love. I see you. I know you. I know the real you. I know the real you. I don't even see this illusion you're playing under. You're purely innocent. So that's the only thing we should be offering. And justice is the opportunity for each of us to forgive. The opportunity for each of us to practice mercy. So somebody wrongs you. It's real. It happened. They were obnoxious. They attacked you. They were bad. It really happened. This is your opportunity to grow within yourself and to heal yourself by saying, I see what you did, and I offer you mercy. Or eventually, what? You did something to me? I missed it. That's what we're trying to get to. We're trying to get to somebody coming to you and saying, and this has happened to me so many times. I'm sure it's happened to you too. Someone comes and apologizes for something they did to me. They said, I feel bad. I told you I would this. And I go, I don't even remember that. I didn't even notice it. I didn't even see it. You know why? Because I'm so busy in my own wonderful life. I'm so busy here hanging out with God in oneness and in knowledge. I didn't notice that you were kind of this, that, or the other. Didn't even see it. And I mean, seriously, there's times when people come and apologize and I think, oh, I know what they're talking about and stuff. But there's times when people apologize to me that I literally have no clue what they're talking about. It just didn't even register. Wasn't even on your radar. So that's what we're talking about here. Okay, 7. I've spoken of different symptoms, and at that level, there's almost endless variation. There is, however, only one cause for all of them, the authority problem. This is the root of all evil, quote unquote. Every symptom the ego makes involves a contradiction in terms, because the mind is split between the ego and the Holy Spirit, so that whatever the ego makes is incomplete and contradictory. This untenable position is the result of the authority problem, which, because it accepts that one inconceivable thought as its premise, can produce only ideas that are inconceivable. So the authority problem is you did not create yourself. You did not create yourself. God created you. God is in control. God is in charge. No matter what you say, no matter what you do, no matter how many books you read, no matter how many spiritual retreats you go on, no matter how many times you walk the Camino, no matter how many labyrinths you walk, no matter what you do, you are still not in charge. You still did not control yourself. The universe is still going to go the way the universe is going to go. Love is still real no matter what you choose to see. No matter what insane nightmare you choose, love is still the true answer. Love is still real. It all boils down to the authority problem. You versus God. You let go and let God have the authority, which is what you want, because that's what leads to peace. And that's actually what's going to happen, whether you want it to happen or not. So it is what we want. So if we just let go and allow that, let go of that control, we go into flow, we go into peace, we go into knowledge. Okay? We don't even notice. I mean, really, we're trying to get to a point where we don't even notice. We're so busy in our relationship of oneness with God that when something happens, and when we do notice something, when we do have an interaction and we go, ouch, that hurt, we say, wow, this is an opportunity for me to heal. And that's it. That's the only thing we notice about it is, oh, I must have seen this differently. I choose to see this differently. Help me heal. Help me heal this. It all boils down to the authority problem. I did not create myself. God created me. In order to know all, I must remember I am only here to represent Him who sent me. We are exactly as God created us, perfect. Nothing we do, no actions we take, none of our behaviors, nothing we've said, nothing we've done will ever change that. We were born innocent and we stay innocent. Our brothers were born innocent and they stay innocent. They remain innocent. Doesn't matter what they're doing. That is the truth. No matter what we choose to see, that still remains the truth. If you're thinking of somebody right now as I am, it's true about that person too. They were born innocent, they're innocent now, and they will be innocent, regardless of what they've done to you, regardless of how they treated you. That is the truth. That is the reality. The quicker we see it, the quicker we get over that internal struggle with that, the more peace we'll have. Anytime we don't believe that, it robs us of our peace because it doesn't change the truth. We said that in an earlier paragraph here. It just robs you of your peace. It just exhausts you. It doesn't change what's true. What's true is still true. 8, the issue of authority is really a question of authorship. When you have an authority problem, it's always because you believe you are the author of yourself and project your delusion onto others. You then perceive the situation as one in which others are literally fighting you for your authorship. This is the fundamental error of all those who believe they have usurped the power of God. The belief is very frightening to them, but hardly troubles God. He is, however, eager to undo it, not to punish his children, but only because he knows it makes them unhappy. God's creation are given their true authorship, but you prefer to be anonymous when you choose to separate yourself from your author. Being uncertain of your true authorship, you believe that your creation was anonymous. This leaves you in a position where it sounds meaningful to believe that you have created yourself. The dispute over authorship has left much uncertainty in your mind, that it may even doubt whether you exist at all. Okay. We fight with God to be the ones who created ourselves, but when we win, we're terrified because everything is beyond our control. Okay, so we think we created ourselves. Then somebody else comes and says something to us, and we think they have control over us. We think that our peace is dependent on them and whatever they say. We come up with all these different things instead of the truth, which is that God created me. I'm perfect exactly as God created me. Nothing I say, nothing I do will ever change the fact that I'm perfect exactly as God created me. We just have to keep coming back to that. I hand the power and the authority back to the force of love. I allow the force of love to change how I see this situation. I've shared with you all before many times, if anybody is bothering you in your life, pray for their happiness for 30 days. It changes everything. You didn't create yourself. You didn't create them. They can't impact you. Pray for their happiness to put the power back where the power belongs, in the power of love. I love that paragraph. I love 8. I don't have any other notes on that. I feel like it's pretty clear. You all can ask me questions when I get back on that, if there are any. Okay, 9. Only those who give over all desires to reject can know that their own rejection is impossible. You have not usurped the power of God, but you have lost it. Fortunately, to lose something does not mean that it's gone. It merely means that you don't remember where it is. Its existence does not depend on your ability to identify it or even place it. It is possible to look on reality without judgment and merely know it is there. Okay, so we may have forgotten that we did not create ourselves, but choosing again is always an option. Choosing again is always available to us. Ask yourself in every situation, ask yourself. I want to give you a really specific example of this. I'm trying to think of one. Okay, there was a mistake at work. There was a miscommunication. An old process, somebody had to approve something, in the new process, the new person who took over that role doesn't need to approve it. I forgot to update the document to say that the approval step's not necessary. I'm transitioning out of this project, so I transitioned this to a new woman, and she said, does this need to be approved? I said, no, it doesn't need to be approved. And then we get to a point where she emails me and she says, well, in the document, it says it needs to be approved because I never updated the document when the new person took over. And so now I'm trying to explain that, I can't even remember. It's been so long since the old person's been gone and since I wrote the original document. I'm all confused. We're having this totally confusing conversation and all of this, I'm trying to figure out what is happening over there. So then I say to myself, there's all this confusion. There's all these emails going back and forth. Did I create this? Was I the one who created this? And the answer is no. The answer is the woman asked if it needed to be approved. I said it did not need to be approved. She then got confused, went back and forth looking, found the old document, saw it need to be approved, created all of the stuff. She created this. She created all of the stuff. Do I have a role in it? Absolutely. I didn't update the document. So I have a role in it. I have a responsibility for it, but I didn't create it. I didn't create all this email back and forth. I didn't create all this drama. I didn't create all this confusion. She did. She created it. Okay. Is it mine? Do I need to fix it? Do I need to make her feel better? No, she created it. She said, I'm going to go to the new person and make sure they don't want to approve it. I said, I know for a fact they don't want to approve it. I had this conversation with them. You don't need to go to them. And she said, well, no, I really feel like I do. And I said, okay. Because she created it. So it's hers to figure out how she wants to move forward to. I already know the answer. But I didn't create this. I can't fix it for her. I didn't create it. In other situations, there'll be times where I get annoyed with someone. I see something and I think, oh, God, there's that person. I don't know what's going on, blah, blah. And because I have that perception of them, they come up and talk to me and I'm like, kind of like, not very fully engaging. And then I'm not fully engaging and then they kind of like don't engage with me that much and blah, blah, blah. And then it becomes the situation. Did I create that? Yep. Yeah, I created that. Do I have a role to fix it? Absolutely. I created it. I can fix it. The minute I fix it, all of that will disappear because it was all an illusion. It was all based on how I saw it. And the minute I choose to see it differently, it's as if that event never even happened. So ask yourself in every situation you're in, is this my drama or is this their drama? Did I create this? Okay, and if you created it, then do I need to do something to remedy what I created? Do I need to heal this? And that's, you know the answer to that. And if you didn't create it, do you really need to be involved in it at all? Do you even need to forgive them? Do you even need to like engage on any level? It's not yours. It's theirs. Let them deal with it. Or not deal with it, or do whatever they're going to do with it. You didn't create it. So that's a key question to ask yourself here in 9. When we give up all judgment, we go into knowledge. And that's when we'll feel peace, is when we're in that state of knowledge. Okay, I love this. You have not usurped the power of God, but you have lost it. Fortunately, to lose something does not mean it's gone. We have the power of God within us. We are God's representatives on earth. We are one with God. Whatever word you want to say, we are a force of love. We're a force of love on this planet. We're one with all of that. So we have that power within us. It's a choice of choosing to see it. Just because we've forgotten for a moment that that's who we are, the truth about ourselves, doesn't mean it's not there. At any moment, you can choose again. I love that about the Course in Miracles. Just choose again. Don't figure out why you didn't. Don't analyze it. Don't figure out what you need to do with the other person. Just mentally choose again. You are going this way. Separation, nightmare, illusion. Choose again. Just go this way. Why they go? Who cares? What are they going to think? Who cares? Choose again. Choose to go in the direction of love. That's all we got to do. Just keep choosing again until we get to the point where we automatically just shift this way. We see something happening and we go, phew, right? Right now we see things happening. We go here and we go, choose again. Choose again. Choose again. But we keep doing that over and over again. Eventually we'll just get there and go, boom, right? Or we'll get there and we'll go, I really want to go this way, but I know what's going to happen when I go this way. I'll just go this way and save myself. Or sometimes we go, I know what's going to happen when I go this way. I just want to go this way for 5 minutes and then I'm going to choose again. I eventually keep working on it, keep working on it, keep working. It'll become natural to go the opposite direction. 10, peace is a natural heritage of spirit. Everyone is free to refuse to accept his inheritance, but it is not free to establish what his inheritance is. The problem everyone must decide is the fundamental question of authorship. All fear comes ultimately and sometimes by way of a very devious route for the denial of authorship. The offense is never to God, but only to those who deny him. To deny his authorship is to deny yourself the reason for your peace, so that you see yourself only in segments. This strange perception is the authority problem. The Course in Miracles is introducing us to, you think you have many problems, but in reality you only have one problem. And your only one problem is you thought you created yourself. You do not remember that God created you. Everything boils down to this. So it says even in here, line 4, all fear comes ultimately and sometimes by way of a very devious routes from the denial of authorship. So sometimes you think, I don't have enough money to pay my bills. Well, that didn't have anything to do with authorship. You keep going down. I don't have enough money to pay my bills. Okay, why does that scare me? Because I'm not going to be able to take care of myself. Well, did you create yourself to take care of yourself? I mean, taking care of yourself means you are a single individual body, not one with the whole world. Everything comes down to this authorship. Everything comes down to who has authority. Are you the one who's in charge or is God in charge? Because if God created you, then God has to take care of you. You're his creation. You're part of him. I mean, if you think of God as a human body, just for the sake of this example, and you're the tip of his pinky, okay? Would you not take care of the tip of your pinky? Would you just say, oh, that's not me. That's my pinky. It's separate from me. No. So you are the tip of God's pinky. So you have to be taken care of because you're part of the whole. And the whole is perfectly peaceful and perfectly loving and perfectly taken care of. And so are you, by definition. By definition, so are you. But when the pinky starts to say, no, I'm going to do my own thing, we got a big problem going on over here. And in fact, Marianne Williamson says this in all of her lectures. She talks about each of us as cells of the overall. You know, that's the example she uses versus the pinky. So she says, what happens in your body when one cell decides, you know what? This isn't working for me. I got to do my own thing. She says, we call that cancer when a cell goes rogue. It's insane. It's crazy. It doesn't make any sense. So you are part of the whole, and you are naturally set up for the greatest good of the entire. And everything else, all the other cells, are naturally set up for the greatest good of the entire. So when you see a cell and you say, you don't seem to be set up for the greatest good of the entire, you're seeing things inaccurately. Because that is by definition what you are and what everybody around you is. Okay, to not deny his authorship is to deny yourself your reason for peace. You only see yourself in segments. So you are exactly as God created you. Pure love, pure peace, radiant light. You are, and no matter what you do, no matter what you said to that guy yesterday when he was being annoying, you're still exactly as God created you. God assures us perfect safety. Knowing equals peace. Judging others is to see ourselves as lacking. And when we see ourselves as lacking, we lack peace. But peace is our birthright. We don't have to accept it, but it's always there for us. It's your inheritance. You don't get to choose what your inheritance is. You don't have to accept it, but it's still there for you. Fear always means we forgot who is in charge. We deny who we are, and therefore we lose our peace. Last paragraph, 11. There is no one who does not feel that he is imprisoned in some way. If this is the result of his own free will, he must regard his will as not free, or the circular reasoning in this position would be quite apparent. Free will must lead to freedom. Judgment always imprisons us because it separates segments of reality by the unstable scales of desire. Wishes are not facts. To wish is to imply that willing is not sufficient. Yet no one in his right mind believes that what is wished is as real as what is willed. Instead of seek ye first the kingdom of heaven, say, will ye first the kingdom of heaven? And you have said, I know what I am, and I accept my own inheritance. Let's read this from 11 from here. Your belief in a world that is real limits you, but you do not accept that it is your free will to believe in it or let it go. Judgment is the way that you limit yourself by making some parts of the world valuable and therefore real to you. But your wishing that the world is real does not make it so. Only God is real. And you can be at peace only when you accept this. We all see our will as our way of being blocked, and therefore we think we have a problem. We look around and we see problems because we're not getting our way. Our will is not being done here, and so we think we have problems. But we choose to see ourselves as blocked, and we choose to see we have a problem because we think we created ourselves. We don't realize that whatever we're seeing and perceiving as this problem is not really a problem at all. Everything is going exactly as it should go. Again, Byron Katie, the work. Are you sure this shouldn't be happening? Can you be 100% sure that you should not be facing a health problem right in this moment? Can you be absolutely sure that what is for your highest, best good is to not have a health problem at this moment? Can you be sure of that? No, you didn't create yourself. So you don't know what this health problem leads to. Can you be absolutely sure that you should not be in a situation where you're concerned about money right now? No, because you didn't create yourself. So you don't know what this situation is going to lead to, because you don't know what's going to happen in 5 minutes. You don't know what miracle is going to come out of this quote unquote bad situation. You cannot know. We cannot know. We just can't know. We don't have that access unless we go into this place of pure trust. When we go into the place of pure trust, we say, I know everything is okay. But we don't have the facts to know everything's okay. We just know. You just know. There's no question. You just know. It's not like you were given information that now you can prove. You just trust. Pure trust. You just know. To see peace and to be peace, we must let go of judging our brother. And that's really the biggest thing here, is for us to get our peace, we have to first see everybody else around us as innocent. And that, my friends, is 3-6, judgment and the authority problem. So as a reminder, you didn't create yourself. God created you perfect in this perfect love. And no matter what you do or no matter what you will ever do, you still will remain perfect in perfect love. And that's true about you, and it's true about everybody else. So this week, I challenge all of us to really see beyond what our eyes are showing us and see every single person we encounter as perfect love, as perfectly innocent. Everything they do, regardless of whether we like it or dislike it or it makes sense or not, see it as the work of a completely innocent being, maybe a confused being, but completely innocent. And let's practice to the best of our ability to just notice the judgment and see if we really need it in that moment, or could we just in this moment let it go? All right, and I'll be back with you all live next week. I'm actually thinking about, I might record a video for next week just because it'll finish out 3, and then we'll go live together to do maybe a chapter 3 review together and then move on to chapter 4. But it's been fun making these videos. It's been fun sitting outside. I hope you all have enjoyed them. And I'm looking forward to talking to you all live. Bye.